The moment Dr. Evelyn Corbett unrolled the chart, I could tell it wasn't official. Under the fluorescence of the Sable Runner's galley, the sheet shimmered like vellum, pale grey, its contour lines drawn in a hand somehow too precise. A single unlabelled depression, round as a bullet wound, lay at precise coordinates, smack in the middle of the Philippine Sea. A seismic anomaly, she said, tapping the hole. No published depth. The Japanese logged a rogue sonar ping there in '87. It vanished from the archives. Could be a new hydrothermal vent. Could be a sinkhole. We won't know until we look. Captain Luca Merriman, grizzled as driftwood, grunted. Or could be nothing. That pocket's slap outside safe range for submersibles. 6,000 metres, maybe more. Corbett folded her glasses. I've seen grant money evaporate chasing the word maybe, but the descent window is now, Captain. She glanced at me and the three other tech divers. Joe O'Hara, hydraulic engineer. Rafi Reyes, ex-Navy sonar. And me, Cass Ransom, sub-pilot. If we bring back samples, we secure next year's funding and perhaps rewrite deep-sea biology. Merriman exhaled and signed the voyage plan. 2 days later, we motored past the last cargo lanes, into ocean where the water darkened to an almost physical blackness, even at noon. Our submersible, DSV Minos, was a 3-seat acrylic sphere, front-loaded onto a steel carriage that craned over the runner's stern. Inside, controls splayed in half-moon arcs, joysticks for thrusters, and tether reels at our knees. External LED bars could turn midnight water into chalky day for roughly 4 hours before needing to swap the batteries. Stint will be 8 hours, Corbett said over the comms as she keyed the hatch. Descend to 5,500 metres, survey the trench lip, collect thermal and water samples. If the hull strain sensors hit yellow, abort. I buckled into the pilot's seat. Joe and Rafi took the observation couches. Luca's voice crackled from the deck loudspeaker. Lower vis, light current, Godspeed. Winch cables shrieked. The Minos swung out, kissed the surface, and plunged. Within seconds, sea and sky merged into a cobalt swirl. 5 metres, 20, 100. Sunlight thins to lunar haze before snuffing out altogether. At 400 metres we passed the twilight zone, as we called it. Apt. Rafi cued a sonar sweep. Pings blossomed across his tablet, mapping walls of sheer basalt. The pressure gauge needle ticked. No hull groans yet. We exchanged casual banter until at 3,000 metres, Joe counted 3 lanternfish hooked to the viewport. One flashed bright, then burst like overripe grapes, leaving a smear of milky cells that drifted upward towards the surface. Barotrauma, Joe murmured. Something disturbed them. Fast. Sonar chimed again. An ascending column of undefined returns. Size uncertain, possibly a school, but ascending at 50 metres per minute. Fish rarely climb that quickly without a predator. I throttled to lateral thrusters, nudging Minos away. At 4,900 metres, the water changed colour on the cameras. Greens turned brittle, reds vanished. A faint vibration shivered the hull, as if distant machinery idled somewhere in the abyss. Jo muttered under her breath, tapping the compass. I didn't hear what she said. The depth sounder cycled, then stalled. Rafi frowned. We've lost the echo. It says we're still falling, but no bottom ping." He smacked the housing. All we could hear was white noise. A migraine's sweet hum seeped through the cabin, felt rather than heard, like standing within a bass speaker. This didn't normally happen. LED beams probed nothing but particulate haze. I deployed the drop cam. A GoPro in a titanium canister on a Kevlar line. It fell into the gloom. At 140 meters below our keel, the feed erupted into white snow. Even stranger. Raffi retrieved the tether. Only 30 meters of line returned. The rest was sheared off. Joe's voice dropped to register. "What in God's name did this? It's Kevlar." I checked the cabin timers. 6,030 meters. We should have hit the trench floor. Instead, all of our sensors suggested we were free falling into an open void. "Ballast release," I ordered. Joe popped the rear drop tanks. We should have stopped our descent. Instead, the altimeter sank faster. 7,000 now. Then, we hit the bottom. Not a gentle nudge, an impact that slammed us forward. Our indicators blinked yellow. Our acrylic shell creaked, but held fast. Our flood beams lit fine silt, olive drab and pulsing, as if breathing. The floor wasn't rock, but a carpet of matte green tubes, each a meter tall, gently waving despite the still water. They resembled hydrothermal worms, but scaled for nightmares. Even stranger, the seabed, if you could call it that, curved upward in all directions, like we'd landed on the bottom of a gargantuan bowl. Joe whispered, "This isn't the seafloor. It's a cavity. We're inside a dome of some sorts." I spotlighted the wall. It was alive, covered with faint luminescent veins, spooling towards some unseen apex. Corbett's voice crackled from topside. "Minos, you've vanished. The depth's readout's blank on our end. Report your status." I opened comms, but they couldn't hear us. The hum pooled inside our skulls. Suddenly, a tremor rippled through the tube forest. Dozens snapped shut, retreating into holes. From beyond our arc of light, something massive undulated. A shadow swallowing the landscape, drawing nearer. Raffi hissed, "Turn off the floodlights." I killed them. Our cameras remained useless, but our eyes adjusted to faint bioglow from the walls. Strange shapes emerged. Rows of protrusions like dorsal plates sliding around the bowl's rim. Soon, a clicking chorus erupted from the audio feed, like thousands of castanets. It rose until the cabin glass buzzed around us. I tried to stop myself from hyperventilating. Whatever was down here wasn't alone. It was a colony, or one body composed of many. We couldn't be sure. We sat in near dark, surrounded by breathing walls and receding worm tubes. The only light came from faint turquoise veins that pulsed like distant heartbeats. I feathered the thrusters. Nothing. Mud sucked at the carriage skids. The depth gauges blinked nonsense. Corbett's voice stayed lost behind the white noise, as though the water itself swallowed the radio. Raffi toggled the passive sonar. A waterfall of clicks and groans poured through the cabin speakers. Layered, complex. It almost sounded like language. Underneath, It thrummed a lower note, deep and patient, older than tectonics. My mouth dried. We have to get off this thing. I tried my best to jolt the sub loose. The tubes beneath flexed, then retracted, like nerve endings withdrawing from a burn. Minos bobbed free 1/2 meter, water swirling around us. I rotated the thrusters to ascend, but the altimeter still read null. We rose maybe 3 meters. Then the ceiling unfolded. A translucent membrane, veined like the seabed, peeled back on biomechanical hinges. Through the aperture drifted shapes as big as subway cars. Manta-like forms ringed by cilia, trailing bioluminescent tendrils that wrote cursive in the dark. They circled us, curious, their pupil-less eyes glowing pearl. As if hearing us, one drifted closer, unfurling a frilled mouth. A filament slapped our viewport, thin as dental floss, yet it sparked on impact, leaving a lightning-shaped scorch. The creature recoiled, flashing indigo, and honked a sound that rattled our guts. Raffi swore in Spanish. A second manta swooped under our keel, like it was exploring for a way in. Pressure alarms climbed. The hull strain was now 38%. I eased the power to half. The sub rose, but the mantas followed, shepherding us towards the membrane's opening, a throat leading upward into total black. "Maybe they're escorting us out," Joe offered. "I doubt it," I said, remembering the sheared camera tether. We cleared the throat and entered a vertical shaft 5 or 6 submersibles wide. Walls ribbed with cartilage struts that pulsed faint orange. Turbid currents swept upward, warm, smelling of sulfur even through the cabin's filtration system. At least the depth gauge now confirmed we were rising. 10 meters above, the shaft opened into a cavern so vast, our lights couldn't find the borders. At its center hovered a sphere of faint radiance, a living chandelier. Tendrils dangled to the cavern edges like anchor chains. Each tendril was studded with thousands of egg sacs, swollen with embryonic mantas. We floated, mute. We needed time to take this sight in. Then Raffi leaned into the sonar. "Guys, the sphere's hollow." Echoes revealed a chamber. A cocoon bigger than a football field, its shell thin. Energy signatures spiked, electrical fields humming across our instruments. "It's a brood hatch," Joe realized. "They're building pressure. When it ruptures, larvae ride the currents to shallower waters." I thought of the havoc this could cause, and pictured oceans filling with predators no net could hold. We needed to get proof topside. I readied the sampling harpoon, a titanium bolt tethered to a winch, and took aim at the nearest tendril. The manta guards scattered. I fired. The bolt thudded into tissue, green ichor sprayed in all directions. Joe toggled the winch, retracting 1/2 meter before the cable jerked and jammed. An inhuman roar shook the cavern. The chandelier brightened to a blood red. The shaft behind us shivered shut. Cass, that's a defensive response," Joe said. "Let go of the sample." Before I could, the cable went slack. The harpoon was gone, absorbed somehow. A lance-like spine shot from the chandelier, grazing our starboard thruster. We heard a screech of metal, and realised that our steering fin was now damaged. In the commotion, Rafi's eyes widened. Look. A shape approached along the cavern floor. Massive, segmented, taller than the Minos. It moved with glacial patience, its legs digging trenches as it went. The Manta escorts must have been infants. That meant this must have been the parent. I punched the engines. The crippled fin wasn't stable, but we gained altitude. The Titan followed. No hurry. Each movement swaying the water like a slow tsunami. Joe scanned for any exits and found a tunnel at our 2 o'clock. Narrow but passable. The sub scraped the walls, shedding flecks that glowed then dimmed. The Titan's head, I swear it resembled a skull with coral antlers, peered after us, its jaws grinding. Mid-tunnel, our LEDs flickered. Something was sapping our power. Life support dropped to 80%. Joe rerouted the battery stacks, but every amp drained like we were plugged into the world's largest resistor. Organic superconductors, she muttered. It's leaching our electricity. The depth sensor now read 6,300 meters. Ascending, but not quickly enough. Rafi whooped, then sucked breath. Ahead, the tunnel divided into 2 shafts. Left was a mild incline. The right was steep, but lined with chitinous plaques that rhythmically opened and closed. The left seemed far safer, until our sonar pinged empty. A dead end. So right it was. We timed the plaques. Open, close, revving between pulses. A final plaque loomed, snapping shut on our tail. The sub skidded into freefall. We tumbled into a chamber, half filled with viscous fluid, glowing emerald. The liquid buoyed us, but clogged our intakes. I cut the thrusters to avoid choking. Our cameras showed semi-solid chunks, a slurry of bone fragments, fish scales, and human-made debris. A plastic crate, a deep-sea beacon, and a pressure-imploded dive helmet. Then it dawned on us. This was a stomach. Something massive breached the surface, the chandelier again. But here, its tendrils terminated in suckers that squeezed oily nutrients from the slurry. We'd been swallowed deeper into the ecosystem's gut. Our hull groaned. We had to leave. "Emergency protocol," I barked. We'd lost our ballast tanks earlier, but the reserve emergency bag still held compressed helium. Joe triggered them. Bags inflated under the belly. We rocketed upward through marine mucus. A sphincter-like valve above convulsed. The sub wedged halfway, alarms screaming at us. Pressure inside the cabin rose so much, our ears popped. Rafi vented air to equalize the pressure. Joe fired the manipulator claw ahead, ripping tissue like paper. The sphincter dilated just enough. We burst through. Soon, our sensors recalibrated. 1,900 meters depth. Back in open ocean, outside the dome. Above, faint sun shafts teased downwards. The carrier Sable Runner should be 3 clicks north. Our comms crackled back to life. Corbett's voice. "Minos, status. We're reading you shallow again." "Send coordinates. We've encountered a nest," I panted. She sounded shocked. "We lost your beacon for 6 hours. Luca couldn't wait. A storm's coming. He'll swing back if you surface within the hour." We dumped our remaining ballast. The sub clawed skyward at an unsafe rate. Through our camera, we watched the ocean floor. A lattice of fleshy vents retracting, sealing. The dome had closed, hiding the nightmare. At 200 meters, daylight sharpened. Then, shadow eclipsed us. One of the guardians had followed us. It had grown enormous in mere hours. Its wings must have spanned 20 meters. It lashed an arm at us, snagging the sub. Red light from the alarms flashed incessantly. Joe launched a drone trying to distract it. I reversed thrust, but the manta tightened its grip. "Surface now," Corbett urged. Raffi grabbed the manual release and blew our last helium bag. The manta's sucker tore. We shot upward like a cork, the creature spinning away in turbulence. We breached in a plume of foam. The Sable Runner cut engines beside us, cranes lowering slings. Luca hollered curses as the crew winched us high. The manta surfaced once, eyeing the hull, then vanished below. The deckhands cracked the hatch. All of a sudden, salt wind slapped my lungs. It felt amazing to be back above water. We secured the sub. Lightning forked across the clouds as torrential rain battered the deck. We travelled east, away from the brewing cyclone. In the lab, we analysed scrapings from the hull. The enzymes held amino acids which had never been catalogued. The DNA mirrored terrestrial life, but with triple strands interlaced. A blueprint older, maybe extraterrestrial. Corbett theorised panspermia. Organisms seeded Earth eons ago, using ocean trenches as nurseries, until global warming or seismic shifts signalled it was harvest time. And we just rang the dinner bell, Joe muttered. That night, hurricane swells hammered us relentlessly. I stood watch on the bridge as sonar returned faint pings, large masses rising from the hole. 50, 60 contacts ascending. Corbett joined, pale. If they reach the surface... She left the sentence unfinished. The runner's engines faltered. Bioluminescent goo clogged our intake filters. Deck lights revealed there were creatures orbiting the hull. Lucas shouted for knives and pumps. We were their mid-water meal. Corbett pulled me aside. We still have the seismic charges from earlier dives, if we drop them into that basin. But the charges were rigged to the submersible launcher, now crippled. I'll take it anyway, I said. You barely survived as it is. She gripped my wrist. It's a death wish. I thought of the chewed helmets deep below. If we don't act now, human bones will soon be washing up on shores all across the world. Lightning boomed overhead. Decision made. We rigged 4 seismic charges, each the size of beer kegs, onto Minos's exterior. Repairs were crude. A thruster patch, a manual steering rod. Raffi, now concussed, stayed topside. Joe insisted on co-piloting. A storm churned, but at 10 minutes past 3, we submerged, plunging once more into the ink below. The dome reopened before we reached 5,000 meters, as if it sensed us. We released strobes to minimize attention, gliding dead slow into the throat. We couldn't see any creatures, only the low hum that we experienced last time. Fuse timer set for 6 minutes, Joe whispered, arming the charges. The brood chandelier glowed ahead, brighter. the sacks now ripened with twitching silhouettes. I skimmed above the tubes, reversing course. At the 2-minute mark, a titan roused, blocking the exit shaft. Its skull plate parted, revealing more petals ringed like teeth. A tendril lashed, denting our viewport. The cabin crackled in protest. Joe yelled, "Emergency ascent bags blown!" Helium spurted, and the Minos rocketed upwards. A breach in the hull hissed sea spray over the consoles. 4,000, 3,000 meters. A bright shockwave flashed behind us. The dome imploded, collapsing like a pierced lung. A pressure surge rammed us 50 meters upward. All of our lights died. We spiraled upwards, blindly. After what felt like forever, we broached the surface amid scattered debris. Dawn reddened the storm clouds. The ocean around us appeared to be steaming. To our relief, no creatures surfaced. On deck, I watched the horizon swirl with vibrant colours. Luca steered east. By afternoon, the patch was gone. The sea as calm as slate. Sonar sweeps revealed no major activity. Corbett logged everything, but warned our findings would be buried. After what was called a debrief, Joe's backup footage was coincidentally lost. We were each forced to sign papers, thick with penalties. Back at university, Corbett lectured on the newly discovered enzymes, but with no mention of what created them. She must have looked 20 years older. Raffi retired to inland New Mexico. "Farthest from saltwater," he said. Joe accepted a job designing Martian drilling rigs. "At least I'll see trouble coming," she joked without humour. As for me, I quit piloting subs. Some nights, the deep calls anyway. A hum vibrating my dental fillings. I wake up sweating through the sheets, tasting acid in my mouth. Last month, fishermen near Palau reported dozens of mutilated whales adrift. Their flesh stripped in precise spiral cuts. The carcasses glowed faint green at dusk. Officials have blamed illegal sonar testing. I know better. I realised that we must have wounded the brood, but didn't kill it. Who's to say that this was the only breeding ground? There could be tens, hundreds, hell, thousands of these things across the expanse of the ocean, deep underwater. So, when you stand on a beach and feel the tide tug on you stronger than normal, listen close. Beneath the surf, far below the continental shelf, a slow chorus answers. It's counting down the minutes until the next hatch, humming the song we heard in the black. And this time, no one will be there to drop the charges.